third video of the day. I haven't posted as frequently as I think I should have. Now I'm getting like kind of ones and twos, kind of getting nickel and dimed in views, but that's all right. I more enjoy this. Just, I think I got ticks on me. Oh no, I got a lot of dirt on me. What the heck? I don't even know where that stuff came from. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like doing this for, I just kind of like doing this as kind of like a creative outlet, and maybe a way to reach out to another person. A way to reach out to another person and connect. Because, man, that is what we are missing in society. America has everything but community nowadays. And let me tell you something, community is everything. But anyways, today I want to talk about reaching out in person versus reaching out over a screen. And, I kind of want to talk about, actually I want to go this way. I kind of want to talk about the differences between the two and kind of how I think, like, the reason why everyone's still craving connection, getting into like the nuance and all that stuff that I'm going to get into. Like there definitely is time to reach out over the screen. Like I definitely know I have had friends in the past that try to reach out to me over a screen, over Messenger, over different messaging apps. But man, there's something about just showing up in person. I used to test this actually because because it's so easy to reach out over a screen, and I feel like everyone kind of recognizes this. So no one really takes it seriously. It's oversaturated, if you will. What the heck? Oh, I thought I had ticks on me. It's tick season. Definitely have had a lot of ticks on me. But anyways, it really is oversaturated to reach out over the phone. I heard not too long ago, actually just the other day, that social media is the new Times Square. It's the new third place. There's a lot of people that talked about this sort of theoretical, not really, but theoretical third place. Like back before the internet was a thing, back before electronics kind of took over connection, everyone had a third place. They had their home, they had work, but then they had a third place to socialize, a third place to connect with people. And now that third place has turned into a virtual screen, a virtual connection. And that is such a problem too. Let me tell you something, that is such a problem. Now, especially with AI, man, AI has got to be the Antichrist. It's got to be the most anti-God thing that I've seen in the longest time. Not because of what it is right now, but because of what it is going to degrade into. A lot of old people, I don't really agree with them on a lot of things, but man, this is something that we can really find a middle ground on. Nobody really likes AI. At least not from what I've seen. You see like the Peter Thiel videos about AI, like him being afraid that AI is going to take over the world. And man, that's not very heartwarming, But anyways, but now on the discussion of AI, now you have these AI chatbots. You have these AI chatbots, like you have AI therapy, you have AI connection. These artificial connecting programs, that like connect you. Like I saw not too long ago about Reddit users. I saw this thing where like a Reddit, like the screenshot of a Reddit thread of Redditors connecting with this AI girlfriend. Okay, and it's not just men. It's women too, but it's different for women. It's different for women because now, like they have finally found out a way to get women addicted to connection through like an AI device like that. You know, because for women, it was kind of complicated because like you needed so much imagination, you needed so much imagination to get women addicted to connection. You know, it couldn't have just been straightforward with like images like for guys. You know, guys kind of get locked on with images, kind of, you know, grazing over the topic of pornography, which I could probably get into as well, but I just want to touch on this real quick, where now there's like certain AI bots, these certain AI artificial connection programs where they can feed into a woman's fantasies, you know, and it used to be a lot harder for women. It used to be a lot harder for women because they would at least have to go to the library, they would at least have to go and get a book, or they would at least have to find someone on social media. They'll have to find someone on social media, maybe like Tom Holland was a great example, and some other actors that they would kind of like run these fantasies in their head. At least that's how I see it. Let me know if I'm wrong. But that's just kind of how I see it, where they're so trapped in these, oh, I don't even know where all this dirt freaking came from, but they're so trapped in these fantasies in their head to now they don't have to go out. They don't have to search for anything. All they have to do is just find one artificial connection program that's willing to kind of fill their fantasies and kind of talk to them in certain ways, to where now they're kind of addicted to that. You know, there's books, which I think it was a bee or a person. Very well could have been a skeeter. Anyways, but because like not too long ago I found out that you know, women are addicted to like something like these fantasy books called like smut or something like that. I don't know if that's something I can say, but I'm just gonna say it anyways. Where it's basically like bestiality and like them fantasizing about, man, some dark things, like them being like taken advantage of. Like it really is demonic. Like if you aren't tapped into the spiritual realm, I don't mean like new age spirituality, like crystals, the moon phases. I mean Jesus. Man, because Jesus is the only one that can set you free. Whether you like it or not, whether you would like to argue, man. You know, everyone's an atheist in a foxhole. You know, or excuse me, yeah, everyone believes in God in a foxhole, or something like that. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but you know what I mean. Like everyone tries something else. Everyone tries being a Muslim. Everyone tries going into, you know, spirituality with Hinduism and Buddhism. No one really tries becoming a Jew, unless they're like kind of born into it as a Jew, but you know what I mean. But everyone ends up falling back on Christ. All roads lead to Christ. Let me tell you something, all roads lead to Christ. Straight up facts, by the way. But anyways, I don't want to get too off topic, but yeah, like you have this AI that's, you know, it's been artificially filling connections for men for at least the past couple years, you know, but you had like smaller versions of AI kind of filling the void of connections for men. What the frick? You know, but it's gotten so worse. It's gotten so much worse. It's degraded so much more. You know, like women kind of went on that dark path of, you know, fantasizing about being like taken advantage of with like certain beasts and all this other crap, and kind of degrading their own value in that way. But now you have the other, I don't say now, but you know, like that's the end goal for that sort of female fantasy delusion epidemic, if you will. Super long-winded way to put it, but that's just kind of how I see it. But you have that side of it, but now you have the connecting puzzle piece of men on the other side that are now being fed this like, I don't know about you, but I haven't really talked about this in a while because I honestly didn't want to jinx it. But man, like I quit pornography. I don't even know. I think it's been like 2, 3, maybe even close to 4 months now. And man, life is so much more beautiful without that stuff. You're able to see, you're able to see the small things in life that are beautiful instead of just being so caught up in the big things that you're trying to chase all the time. But anyways, you know, while I was addicted to that and having that as my vice, it made me realize, like, man, like it's trying to get me hooked on like these super dark and twisted videos where now it's like women are fantasizing about being taken advantage of. And now on the other hand, you have men fantasizing about taking advantage of women, whether or not anyone would like to admit it. Dude, that's what pornography degrades into. Okay, and now like putting this all together, now it's because you had that side of women, but it wasn't really a large portion of women. I know a lot of women would like to be like the spokesperson for all women. It's not true. You aren't the spokesperson for all women. There's a lot of women that aren't very degenerative in their values, you know, but they just don't really want to speak up about it. So anyways, so now like you had like this small portion, but now it's like amplified because now you have AI and it's a lot more accessible. You know, they finally found out a way to get women hooked on to their devices so much that they'll be just as lonely as men. They'll be just as lonely as men. Everyone is preaching this male loneliness epidemic. But man, they weren't able to see like, which is a huge issue, by the way, which I'm not discrediting. I'm not trying to discredit either. But now you just have the other side of it, where everyone is so mad on the other side, but they weren't able to find like the nuance in between it. They weren't able to bridge that connection because they were so focused on the extremes. So now you have the female loneliness epidemic, which, you know, take my word for it, I'm calling it right now, is going to explode by like, I want to say like 2030 or maybe even sooner. You know, I'm seeing it a lot now. I'm seeing a lot of women my mom's age that kind of give me like these weird flirty eyes. You know, just kind of like as the Bible puts it, like, was it like the Jezebel spirit and like the woman that has these very like haunty or haughty eyes or whatever, like you can see it. And like, there's something so sad about that when there's people your parents' age or your grandparents' age that haven't grown up, and despite it all, you have to be the one that is grown up. You know, you have to be the bigger person despite being younger and not understanding as much because you are younger, but just being able to try as hard as you can. And on top of that, like, you didn't really start it. You didn't really start the degenerative values that is the social dynamic of our modern day society, but you still kind of feel like this calling. Like, I don't really have a choice. You know, like, I don't really have a choice for this calling. It's kind of like Jesus in a way. You know, like he even asked the Father, like, is there another way that this can be done? Man, I feel like that's kind of a lot of younger people nowadays. Like, they didn't really start this, but they kind of feel this calling that they gotta be the spiritual leader. This is why you see such a huge revival in the younger generations. For the first time in, I think, like 2 or 3 generations, you see an uptick of the young people going to church instead of this continuous linear downtick. You know, I think it's because push comes to shove, you tried everything. You tried all your vices. You tried doing it your own way. But you're kind of left empty. Like, have you ever, let me ask you this, have you ever revolved your entire life around something only to finally get it and figure out that there's nothing of you left? Man, I felt that. One day, let me tell you something, I felt that. I'm not going to get into it, but man, there's something about that of just giving it your all, but your all just wasn't enough. All roads lead to Christ on the cross. Anyways, I think that's all I got to talk about. God bless.